Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. We made it through this short and probably a little bit wild week. I hope you had a good week, and I hope that you are about to go into an incredible weekend. Today, we are in our third day of the series, Let's Grow Together. And I am really, really excited because this 3-day series is the beginning of a launch of an ongoing series that I'm going to be doing where I'm going to be bringing guests on and we're going to talk about the struggles. We're going to talk about the challenges that we have both professionally and personally. We are really going to dive in on what it means to be alive and how we can collectively grow together. So if you're interested in coming on to one of my lives, let me know because I am looking for some volunteers who are ready to get a little vulnerable and really allow us to talk about what it's like because we're all living the same journey, different journeys, obviously, but we're all on a similar road that is going to have highs and it's going to have lows, and there's going to be so many obstacles in the way. And I think the more that we can talk about it out loud, the more that we can come together and be honest about our struggles and be honest about what it is we're going through, I think the more it's going to help us in our own lives learn how to show up better for ourselves and learn how to show up better for other people. So again, let me know if you're interested in being a volunteer. So I want to do a little bit of a recap of the last 2 days of the Let's Grow Together series. And then we are going to jump into today, which is all about intention, about being intentional in our lives, about what we do, what we say, how we show up. But first, let's do a recap. So day one was on Wednesday. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, the video is on the page on my page. So you can pull it up there, but if you're not able to find it, send me a DM and I'd be happy to share it with you. So day one is about awareness. And awareness is really the first step of growing. Awareness is really about understanding ourselves, understanding our brains, and understanding why we feel the way that we feel, why we might be stuck the way that we're stuck, and being aware that this is all very, very normal, that this is all very much a part of the human journey. And even though each one of us tend to believe that maybe we're alone and we're suffering and nobody else is going through what we're going through, I am here to tell you that that is not true, that every one of us are going through a bumpy journey. And so when we can start becoming aware of that, we can really start to become more clear on those thoughts, those beliefs, those stories that we have that are holding us back. Because ultimately, when we're living the life of a human being, the emotions that we feel are very much normal. It's normal to doubt ourselves sometimes. It's normal to worry about the future and what's going to happen. It's normal to not feel like you're enough and to worry that you're not good enough. These are all normal, actually. I feel like sometimes when I share that with people, they're like, no, I'm the only one. But no, it is a very normal human brain to doubt, to worry, to be confused, to be frustrated. And so when we understand that and we can become aware of that, we can then start to really question and become curious around the triggers that then it causes, right? The emotional reactions that we have that end up taking us on a completely wild ride, because it's not the emotions themselves that it's a problem in our lives. It's not the energy that we feel in our body that's a problem. The problem in our lives is when we dwell on the energy, when we dwell on the emotions, and we start getting caught up in a tailspin of trying to figure out what the problem is because we're feeling yucky. And so we end up doing one of three things, and that's really what we talked about yesterday. When it comes to our emotions, we do one of three things. We either avoid them, we push them down, like the story I shared yesterday, day after day, being in human resources, you got to show up. It doesn't matter if you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling tired, you're feeling anxious, right? It doesn't matter. You have to show up anyway. And so when you do that and you're having to push through whatever emotion actually really is inside of you, all that does is it just pushes it down. It does not eliminate that emotion. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is it will manifest for you in other ways. And so avoiding our emotions sometimes is necessary, but it always is going to create problems if we don't end up addressing it at some point, if we don't become clear on what the stories, what the beliefs, what are the thoughts that created the emotion in the first place. So that is avoiding. The next thing that we do with our emotions is we distract ourselves from them. We overeat, we overdrink, we overwatch TV, we're on social media, we're doing all of the things to try to keep ourselves from feeling what we're actually feeling. And that was me. Day after day after day, I would get off work and I would run immediately for a glass of wine because I needed to stop feeling what I was feeling all day. And so we distract ourselves, and most people do it in one way or another, in some form or another. And then finally, we react to our emotions. And that was me for so many years, reacting to my anger and having anger issues all my life and realizing that the reacting that I was doing to my anger was not helping and was not serving, and ultimately was only just making me feel worse, right? So many of you, I think, who struggle with anger can really relate to that. And so what that means is we're not really addressing the emotion. We think we are. We think that the anger is addressing it. I'm just going to deal with this, right? But ultimately it's not, because really that reacting is a way for us to avoid. It's actually avoiding feeling the emotion. So we talked yesterday too about what it actually means to feel an emotion. What is that process like? How do we go inward into our body to allow our emotions to be what they are and not push back on them, not try to avoid them, not try to distract ourselves? And so there's a process that we go through in coaching in order to help be able to learn how to go into our bodies, stop all of the crazy talk going on in our brains, so we can just allow the sensation to be in our body, to name it, to become very curious about it. And when we can do that, it will release. And believing in that is something that I think I struggled with for many, many years, is feeling as though when I was feeling sad, when I was feeling lonely, when I was feeling anxious, that I was just stuck with it. That I was just something I had to carry around. And ultimately, this is not true. I think sometimes, like I was saying, the example I gave where I had to go, you just have to, and in being in HR, you got to show up. You can't come in and say, I'm just feeling really sad today. Like you can't do that. You've got to show up. So pushing down sometimes is absolutely necessary, but coming back and really understanding what is at the root of the emotion is going to change your life. 100% going to change your life. So now we have gone through the coaching, we processing the emotion, right? So now I want to shift gears today, and I want to talk about what it means to be intentional in our lives. So I'm going to go to my notes here. So I truly believe that every human being should want to have big dreams in their lives. I think every one of us have the potential to dream and live bigger. But I think so many of us, we limit ourselves and we talk ourselves out of living bigger. We talk ourselves out of having dreams in our lives. And I truly believe as a coach that is just it's a protection mechanism, right? I think it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong with you. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong, that you're not further along in your life than you wish you could be. It actually means you're just fine. You're just a human being who struggles in the way that so many other human beings do. And when you can start to acknowledge that with awareness, when you can start to feel the feelings and let them pass through you, you are going to open your mind up to possibilities in every area of your life. And that is something that I think so few of us really realize. And, I I truly believe, but I have this soapbox rant. So if you've heard me rant on this before, I apologize, but it's something I believe so strongly is that just as important as math and history and science and reading, just as important as those, we need to be teaching our kids and we need to be teaching one another emotional awareness and being able to become more aware of the triggers that cause us to spin out and not move forward in our lives. Because again, and I've shared this before as well, but it's important to reiterate that we have on average anywhere between 60 and 80, no, I'm sorry, 40 and 60,000 thoughts a day. 1,000 thoughts. And of those, anywhere between 60 and 80% of those are negative. And of those, 95% of our thoughts are recycled. So whatever you're thinking about on repeat. So if you're thinking good and positive things about yourself, good and positive things about your job, good and positive things about your world around you, then that is going to be your experience in life. But if you find that you struggle with thinking negatively about so much of the things in your life and speaking negatively about yourself, the feeling that you're not good enough, feeling as though you're not smart enough, or that you're an imposter somehow, whether professionally or personally, that is something that we want to catch. And that is something we want to be really, really clear about, because it allows you to recognize that that is what's holding you back. So when we go back to dreaming big, why don't we all do it, right? What is it that holds us back for so many of us from dreaming in our lives, from really considering the possibilities? And I've come to believe through coaching that it's all about our mindset. Right? When we think big, that's overwhelming. Very quickly, thinking big becomes scary because there's a lot of things that may need to be done between here and there, right? And so when we start thinking of all the things that may need to be done, our brain starts spinning out. But when we can start to recognize that that's absolutely normal, of course, your brain is going to spin out when you start thinking differently and when you start considering making changes in your lives. You can then allow that. You can then not push back and fight against that and recognize that that's absolutely normal, what's happening right now with your brain. But it should never, ever stop you from wanting to dream bigger. It should never, ever stop you from wanting more in your life, and should never cause you to think that you don't deserve it, should never cause you to think that you're not worth it. So being intentional in our lives is really about recognizing the human part of being alive, that the confusion, the doubts, the worries are going to be there. But if you choose not to dwell on it, not to sit in it, not to allow it to just take you over, you are going to be able to start to shift the way you live. You're going to be able to start to shift the way you show up and say, yeah, I know doubt is going to be there. How you doing, doubt? How you doing? I thought you would be joining me today, but I'm going to just allow you to be there. I'm going to do whatever I can to process through. And if I'm not able to, I'm not able to. Like, I have sometimes crippling anxiety to the point where I am like shaky before I come on lives like today. And, I know that causes maybe me to be a little bit jittery. It causes me to talk fast. Like, I know all these things about me, but I also know that I have an obligation to myself and I have an obligation to you to show up, regardless of if there are no viewers on these lives, because my job is to be able to pour into the people that I know that I can help. And that means so much to me. That means so much to me. And so the anxiety has to be a part of my life now. And that's okay. Either way, like here's the thing, either way, we're going to have anxiety in our lives, especially if you're highly prone to anxieties and worries and doubts. If you're highly prone to it, it's going to be a part of your life. But I choose to use that and continue to move forward. I choose to acknowledge it and continue to intentionally move forward because that is changing my life day after day after day. So I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to dream bigger. If we've been in a place for so long in our lives where we have just been stuck and we're not moving forward, what does it mean to change that pattern for you? So I think one, it comes with acknowledging that having dreams, wanting to go in a new direction in your life is going to come with a lot of steps. And it's important to acknowledge that because, again, it's going to feel really overwhelming and scary if you're just looking at where you're at today and then this big old thing way out into the future. If you're not acknowledging that really it's small goal, small goal, small goal, small goal, just brick by brick by brick, that can make a tremendous difference in terms of the way that you look at your goals in your life. Number two, acknowledging that change and growth are going to come with discomfort and recognizing that that is a part of the ride, recognizing that that's a part of your journey, that you're going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. But if you push against that and not think that changing and growth is going to come with a lot of discomfort, now you are putting yourself in a position where you are going to suffer. Because then when it comes, inevitably, it always is going to, you're going to get T-boned in some way. And when that inevitably comes, you have an opportunity to choose. Which path do you want to take? Which wolf do you want to listen to in your brain, right? How do you want to approach this? And intentionally thinking about not allowing that to consume you, to say, yep, I see that. I recognize that right now I'm doubting myself. I have worries. I'm anxious, but I have a mission and I'm going to keep moving forward. Allowing for the stumbles and obstacles, right? It's all a part of it because when you're going to want to start your path of growth, it's going to come with the failures. It's going to come with the mistakes. It's going to come with, like think of yourself like a little kid riding a bike for a first time, right? If you have that memory still in your brain, you remember it came with some scrapes and it came with some bruises, right? That was a part of the journey, but you didn't give up. And I think that that's really where so many of us get a little lost and confused along the way in this road we call life, is that when we have the mistakes, when we have the failures in our lives, we are very quick to do two things. One, give up on ourselves, right? Think about all the diets or all the times that you've tried to do something new in your life. And when you have that first failure, you say, oh, I guess I knew I couldn't do that anyway. So I might as well give up. Right. So that is super common. And so you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware that the obstacles are going to happen, that it is going to hurt from time to time, allowing for that hurt, and then getting back up and keep moving forward because that's the only way you're going to get to where you really want to be. It's the only way you're going to be able to make the changes that you very much want and need in your life. So it's so important. And I think the other thing that is a huge misconception is that we believe that we will take action when we're confident enough, right? I think so many of us talk ourselves out of taking action because we're not feeling as confident as we want to. So when I get to this place, when I've reached this milestone, when this happens for me, then I'm going to start taking action proactively. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding in that because when we're waiting and waiting and waiting to take action, we continue to pile on the suffering, right? We're continuing with our old programming that's so harmful, It's so toxic because that programming is about how much you do not think that you can do it, how much you do not believe in your capacity to grow. And when you start to really pay attention to that, as we talked about in the first video, it's going to completely shift in the way that you look at how you approach your life. And I think that that's tremendously important because confidence is not something that you're going to get before taking action. I wish that I could say it is, but it's not. Confidence is going to come by making the mistakes and still getting up and moving forward anyway. Confidence is going to come when you recognize that you are so much more in control and so much more empowered than you ever gave yourself credit for. But you need to recognize that where you want to start, how you want to start your journey when it comes to the change you want to make, needs to come from a place of commitment, because it's commitment that'll get you out of bed. It's commitment that's going to get you taking the steps down the stairs. It's commitment that is going to push you into that meeting room with this, grabbing that seat at the table, right? Commitment is going to start you on your journey. And that is what I do. And that is what coaching is all about. How do we get you to the point that you are moving forward in a positive and proactive direction, even if it comes with pain? Even if it comes with doubt and worry, with all of that, how do you keep moving forward? So let's say that you do not have big dreams right now. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's absolutely okay. We're in different seasons of our lives all the time. And so if you're one who doesn't really have big dreams and maybe have not had big dreams for quite some time, I think the one thing that I would recommend for you is, how can you start carving into your day? Now, I know I'm going to come in close. I know that we're all incredibly busy. And I know that life is really, really challenging sometimes, especially right now with so much chaos and so much going on. But I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you. I want to implore. I want to beg of you to start taking at least 5 minutes a day to focusing on your own self-care. 5 minutes a day to focusing on becoming more aware of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your stories. 5 minutes a day of being intentional to help you be able to grow, to help you be able to become healthier, and I think that type of work, that type of practice is the most important thing that you will ever do for yourself. There is not a doubt in my mind in that. Whether you work with me, whether you work with another coach, or whether you go at it solo, I don't think it matters, as long as you are putting in the work, as long as you're recognizing that in order to really be able to grow in your life, in order to be able to become the person that you most want to be, you have to put in the time. You have to be willing to go there and be honest with yourself about some of the things that you believe about yourself. It's not going to be fun and it's not going to be easy, but as I've shared before, getting to the other side of that and recognizing that these are just stories, that these are just our brain's way of trying to keep us safe, keep us comfortable, keep us out of harm's way, right? But that's okay. And recognizing that will allow you to then really question if that's what you want to continue to believe. And that's where it starts. When you question, is that really what you want to continue to believe about yourself? Is that really the story that you want to continue telling? Yeah, you can acknowledge that this is something that's been programmed in you for as long as you can remember, but don't have shame about that. Don't judge yourself. And certainly do not self-sabotage yourself because in some way you feel like you should be punished because you're not good enough, that you should have known better, that you should have done better, right? I think that's another thing that I used to do over and over and over again, is that I would catch myself when I was feeling really bad about myself. And rather than course correct and begin moving in a more positive direction, I would begin self-sabotaging. I would start judging myself. I would start thinking the worst things about myself, because what kind of, great person is going to be thinking about these things about themselves? So I must not be very good. I must not be worthy. I must not be good enough, right? Just on and on and on. And that is the power of this work. That's the power of taking time intentionally for you every day. And that is self-care. I think so often when we think about self-care, we think about it in terms of, all these different activities that we can do. I'm going to get a massage and I'm going to get a facial and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But really, I believe that self-care is about going inward. Self-care is about really starting to become intimately familiar and comfortable with who you are, just as you are, without trying to change anything, without trying to judge anything, without trying to make a big, huge deal or problem out of anything. But self-care is about recognizing how much you matter. It's about recognizing how amazing and important you are to this world, and the value that you have to add that's just right now, it's untapped. We just have to get to that point where the true, genuine you comes out. And it may not be for everybody, right? I think there's also this huge misconception that we want everybody to like us. We don't want to cause waves. We don't want to be, somebody that people don't like, or, are not interested in some way. And I think that keeps us stuck. I truly believe that, because when we can get to a point where we no longer give the weight to others in terms of defining who we are, what we are, how we live, that is going to be a massive shift for you, because I am still on that journey and I'm not going to give up until I get there. But I think it's a normal journey. And so that is, I think, the way that I have been able to push through all that, push through the self-sabotage, push through the self-judgments, is to do the work, is to show up, is to acknowledge it, is to not judge myself, become intentional around not allowing myself to go down a rabbit hole, and then to be able to allow those feelings to just go through you so you can keep moving forward. So I think, when it comes to moving forward too, one of the last things I'll say about it is being intentional also means being really strategic when it comes to how you spend your time. Being strategic about how you show up for yourself every day. Because I think I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do work on myself. I don't have the time to invest in myself. I don't have the time to care for myself, is completely effing, I'm not judging you, because it's normal, right? So don't think of this as judgment. This is me saying to you that anytime we are saying we don't have the time to take care of ourselves, we are doing ourselves a massive disservice. So I want you to really become honest with yourself around the excuse, I don't have time. Because I think that we absolutely have time. If we consider how much we're on social media, how much TV we watch, how much time we're doing needless other types of tasks, right? We all have the time. I think we're scared. And I think that's okay. I think that's normal, and that's to be understood. Being afraid is absolutely a part of the journey. And so finding what those excuses are for you to why you're not taking better care of yourself, why you're not showing up for yourself, why you're not choosing to invest in yourself, I think is really one of the most important things that I could ever recommend to you. Because when you start becoming clear, is it I don't have enough time? Is it I don't have the money because so much on Google is free? What is it? What is that story? What's that excuse that you have around why you wouldn't want to do one of the things that would change your life dramatically? And when you can do that inventory, I think you're going to find that those fears, those doubts, those worries, it's really what it is. That's what's holding you back. So if you want to continue in your life to have those stories that are just keeping you safe and holding you back, then you know what? All the best. I mean, all the best to everybody, right? I don't judge. I think, being a human is not easy. And so acknowledging that about ourselves and becoming aware of that is a huge feat. I want to applaud and I want to share my love and appreciation to anyone who has ever started down that journey because it's messy. But I think I've gotten to the point where I understand it's the only way. It's the only way to get me out of my suffering. It's been the only way to get me to a point where I've become more clear on what it is I really want, how I want to be in my life, how I want to show up. It's the only way that is starting to move me towards having the life of my dreams. And I think we all deserve that. I 100% believe that you deserve that. But it starts again with these 3 sessions over these last 3 days. 1, build awareness. Become aware of what you're thinking, how you believe, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about your potential. 2, recognize your emotions are just energy. You're not in danger. There's not a problem. You are going to be okay. And then 3, become intentional about what it is you really want, where it is you want to go, and start creating a plan to get yourself and do it in small baby steps. Do not start thinking about the final step when it comes to, building your building blocks towards your dreams. Yes, you need to keep your eye on the ball, right? But you also need to start working through all of these little baby steps that are going to get you there. And that is exactly where coaching comes in and why so many Fortune 500 executives use coaches, because coaching is really about how can we together collectively, right? It's a partnership. It's a collective of helping you to be able to see your thoughts, see what is really going on so you can become more aware of them and then be able to start questioning them, questioning their legitimacy, questioning whether or not that they are what you want to continue to believe. Because I think maybe you've heard this before, but our beliefs, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about other people, what we believe about the world, and whether it's good or bad, they are ultimately just thoughts that we're having that we've chosen to believe. So knowing that piece of incredibly valuable information is the first step in questioning whether or not they are the thoughts and beliefs that we want to continue to believe. Because again, these are habits. These beliefs we have about ourselves, these stories that we tell, they are habits. And so the only way to break a habit is to start building in new beliefs, building in new thoughts. You can do this. You can be the person that you most want to be. And I know that that may feel difficult to believe right now because we've got work to do. And that's absolutely okay. That just means you're on a different point of the journey than other people. There are going to be people ahead of you and there are going to be people behind you. And I think when I first started my journey in life coaching, I really struggled with that one. I really struggled with feeling alone in terms of how much I suffered and how much I struggled. And so being a part of a community and receiving coaching is a way to really help you realize how not alone you are. And that is a massive weight, I think, off most of our shoulders, and something that I offer within the coaching that I provide. So, all right. So last thing that I want to do, I talked about it at the beginning and I'm going to talk about it again at the end, but I'm taking these first 3 sessions of Let's Grow Together, and I am launching a series. And the series is going to be where I want to bring on guests to come on with me and talk about your journey, talk about how you have persevered and how you have grown, and maybe talk about where you still struggle. What are the things you struggle with the most that are holding you back from being able to be the person you most want to be? What are the struggles that are holding you back from showing up as the person that you most authentically want to be? And I think this series is going to be such an amazing way for us to be able to bond and realize that we are all together on this journey. So if you are interested in being a volunteer and coming on my series to talk about your story, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a DM and let me know that you are interested, and I would love to then schedule some time with you and we can figure out a good date and time for us to do a live together. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for coming today, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. All right, bye now.